must say I've never met a congressman before.
Oh, well, welcome.
I went on.
There's nothing intimidating about that.
Well, I understand that, but at the same time, it's nice to meet you.
It is. That's the whole purpose of these coffees. We have them around the district, and there's so many times where I felt you go into a room and you make a speech, and one or two people might have a chance to ask a question, or some people might sit there and say, well, my question is much more specific, and I don't want to have the other people have to go through this. And we came up with the concept of just no agenda coffees. You're there, one-on-one conversations, and it's really worked out terrifically, because even people without questions or concerns just want to know what's going on, and they want to discuss, now, what are you doing here? What's happening here?
How do you
General
keep track
questions.
of it? My gosh.
Well, you don't always. You just give your most honest answer, but there are people that follow up on specific questions as well. But it's the intimacy that's there. And you know, when they devised a Congress, especially a House of Representatives, it was a group of people that had other trades, other businesses, and they would be in their district most of the time, and then go to Washington to address issues, you know, that are national. What's happened over time in our country, of course, is the fact that the changes in the globe, changes in population, it's the other way around. People in Washington then come back to the district. So I'm trying to keep that thread alive of reporting back. And I really have found in my area, we have people that are very interested in a whole host of issues. And they're well informed, well educated, but they want to hear from someone that's actually there. And sometimes people come to these coffees just to say, you know, I've read this. Is this really what's happening? And it's that kind of...
How often do you do it?
We've done it ever since we got elected. We probably do it every 6 to 8 weeks, but we have over 750,000 population in this district. But it's something that just, along with everything else, has been very effective. And I enjoy it because it's a two-way street in terms of information. There's a lot of things that I'll learn about my own district. Local issues in particular that I didn't fully understand, and you have a chance to learn. So it's not just people listening to me. I have a chance to get a better sense. And when you pick up these threads of information sometimes, one of the things you can do in Congress is you can be a person that networks. You know, not everything is changed by passing a law. Sometimes you can put one group together with another group that's involved. Sometimes you're aware that there's some nonprofit funding available for some local interest. You can be a person that's a conduit. And I think that's all part of what I enjoy at the job.
I spoke with about 3 people here and their issues. One was family services and children's services. That's a huge issue right now.
Well, it's a bigger issue in terms of how it's implemented and dealt with on an island. Because many times the services, they're so comprehensive here. Many times those services are broken down into 2 or 3, 4 or 5 different vendors. But because of access issues, everything is done in one facility in that regard. So it makes it unique and it makes it more challenging, yet there are advantages to that in terms of following through. So, I mean, that's something that is very important. I talked to the Commissioner of Public Health just a couple of weeks ago, and she was concerned on the substance abuse spike in the island, so we talked about those issues as well.
Mental health.
And the two things, you know, a lot of people self-medicate because of other issues. So it's just, there's an advantage, as I said, sometimes when you deal with things comprehensively, because it's not just, you don't have to go to one agency or office to get some assistance if you have a mental health problem. Another one if it's substance abuse. It's getting it together. Yes.
I mean, if you can't help people with their health,
exactly.
It's going to break
And
down.
it's a family issue because if parents are having that trouble or parents having that trouble, it affects children as well.
Yeah, okay. Okay, the other issue, Wisconsin Trust would like to possibly acquire the Lorraine Station.
Yes, and we've been working.
You think that's a good idea?
It sounds like a win-win situation because in terms of Coast Guard and other groups, they can still preserve any future initiatives they need there.
Right.
And we can preserve some of that land. So I think it's something that if we can...
But a tough one, I would think, because it's so valuable. I mean, a developer could come in there and just really make out big time.
Well,
It's a prime location.
the real issue too is the Coast Guard is, the agencies move slowly.
Yeah.
The wheels move slowly in
You
that
know,
regard.
the more I think about it, it is kind of low lying in there too, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean,
So it's
not- yeah.
this is something that could be valuable,
Yeah.
and their potential utilization down the road, although it may not happen, could be preserved that way without any interference. So I think that it's a possible win-win situation if we can move it forward, and our office has been working on that for some time.
And then the other issue is what's happening with Cape Wind and the proposed wind farm.
It's moving forward.
It is going.
And it's moving forward despite court actions. The last one was pretty, was dealt with very quickly. And it's interesting in this district, I have New Bedford as well that I represent. And it's going to be, I think, the area in the United States of America for offshore loading. The state of Massachusetts, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, put in a huge investment building up a terminal that's uniquely suited for this. And it's going to bring in more business and more revenues to Massachusetts through New Bedford. That'll be very helpful. There's 1,000 construction jobs right off the bat that'll help in that city. And I think people have become more aware through this whole. The one good thing about this protracted process, I've found that people have a greater understanding, and some of the concerns have been addressed, and so I think that we're going to be moving forward with that at some level. Maybe there may not be as many turbines, maybe 30 less, maybe 30 more, depending on what some of the tax extenders might be or might not be.
Is that what we're trying to work on, though?
That's one aspect, but it's moving forward regardless, and it's going to be one component, but I think it's going to put the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in our region in a unique situation where we will have spin-offs that will help too. Smaller businesses that will come in, and that'll help our overall revenue and job situation.
So I was reading your bio online. You started out as a postman? Is that you were delivering
I did.
mail?
I was fortunate. When you look at how difficult students have it today, when I was in college, I was able to work my way through Boston College, undergrad. I would work first in the seasonal area, and then after 6 months, I was able to get a job at the post office working, and I earned good money. Sometimes I'd be running into class during the day with a letter carrier's uniform on, which made me stand out in class, maybe in a way I didn't like. But we were able to, I was able to pay my whole undergrad tuition and save enough to have a deposit on a home later on by working my way through. Now the tuitions weren't what they are now, but it wasn't an inexpensive school. And I continued on for my MBA doing that. So I was very fortunate. And I look back and say, a lot of young people don't have that opportunity right now. The tuition structure is so high, and the opportunities to have a job. I had to work hard to make myself valuable because they worked around my schedule. So I had to learn to do everything in the post office, from the janitorial skills to everything.
Keep you humble.
I was a great opportunity, and I must tell you the truth. I've looked back on that. I had more chance. I was very reticent, actually, in high school and by nature. But that postal experience, working with people, gave me the opportunity to be much more comfortable. And I've looked back and said, you know what? I think that was actually instrumental in my ability to, represent people and have that opportunity, because it sort of drew me out.
How long have you been a congressman?
This is my 4th year.
4th year. You're brand new.
I am, although there's been a lot of turnover in Congress, as you know, in the last few years. But I've been able to have some fairly strategic positions in Congress, ranking member on foreign affairs, on Europe, Eurasia, emerging threats there, as well as Homeland Security, and things that actually help this district too, because of the Homeland Security issues, as well as some of the things we're working on to improve our economy, with international trade.
Yeah. Is there something that, what scares you the most then, from that, being on that, knowing what you know?
Well, one good thing here, and one of the issues I was initially involved with, because I was a district attorney before this. The last month of being a district attorney, there was a terrible tragedy where a young man had, stored himself in a wheel well in a commercial jet, and when they put the landing gear down, of course, he died. And we investigated that, found out what happened, and perimeter security of airports is a real issue. And the good news in Nantucket is we just were able to secure $100,000 to help the fencing and the security here. Because once you get into the system, you could go anywhere. And as people know here, there's major transportation, for instance, back and forth to D.C. Through several months of the year. So you can get in the system anywhere, and you can have great security in some major airport, but if you're not doing something at the local level, you're not helping that as well. And this is the second busiest airport in the Commonwealth. And so there's a lot of aviation issues, airport issues here, and it's so important to the economy.
One thing that I've noticed is when it comes to our security, it seems like we're so obsessed with security that it seems overwhelming. So if it becomes overwhelming, how can you be specific on what truly might the threat be? Because, I mean, if it's so big, can't a small threat weave its way inside?
It can. And, you know, we have limited resources. And the important thing is to keep a fluid risk assessment basis going, because some risks are greater than others. Things change. Our focus now, after the, you know, we were told for years that the greatest risk was homegrown terrorists, and we saw that in Boston, where local people were involved in that. And so the risk changes. We have to meet those risks, and we have to just do the best we can under a very challenging time.
Well, take care of people's health.
Well,
I mean, I think health care is huge.
It's the biggest economic issue in our country.
Mental health and physical health.
We are not going to get our budget resolved, our budget issues resolved,
I mean,
if we don't deal with the health issues.
You're not feeling good, and you're gonna snap.
Well, there's so many issues, but the comprehensive way that things are done, and that's another thing we see here. But we have to take that model and really move it across the country. And it's also the best way to save money as well, because we don't want the portal to be the emergency room of hospitals, the most expensive places to go. So we're getting smarter. It's, you know, and we are going in a direction beyond the status quo, which was the worst alternative, and we were never going to give people quality health, access to health, and make it something that's not going to continue to plague our budget without changing direction.
Of course.
Thank you.
Congressman, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.